All right.
How you
doing,
man?
Yeah, how you doing? We're up. We're going. Hey guys, this is I'm Patrick. I'm from Umpqua Feather Merchants. I am the Northern Rockies sales rep, and with the places they'll take you, we are taking you to Victor, Idaho, to one of my good dealers, World Cast Anglers, and with us today is Mike Dawkins. Manager, operator, everything of WorldCast, and he is going to answer any of your questions about Eastern Idaho area, the Henry's Fork, South Fork, Teton River. He's a wealth of knowledge. I've known him for a long time. He's been around for a long time. I look forward to hearing some of the things he has to say, and we're here to answer your questions. But Mike, I'm going to kick it off to you, and why don't you start out just kind of breaking down to us a little bit about the South Fork, the Henry's Fork, the Teton, what brought you there, and what you love about it, man.
Sure. Well, thanks, Patrick. Thanks, everyone at Umpqua Feather Merchants for putting these on. You know, we've all enjoyed hearing from everyone in all of our different geographical regions about fishing in our area. And I guess if you can think of a silver lining of all of this COVID crap that's going around is we've engaged with all of these tools to share our own stories and information. And, you know, that's the greatest thing about fly fishing, right? It's like, it's the sport that you never stop learning, right? You're always engaging with people, things, you know, checking out fishing reports, trying new patterns, you know, whether it's a guide trip or you're doing it on your own. You know, we've got these wealth of web-based tools and these webinars and all sorts of cool stuff now. So we're going to look back on this in like 4 to 5 years, and we're going to be like, golly, man, that really sucked. But we got to learn about all these cool like tools we get to use, right? So there is some silver lining in the cloud. But yeah, so thanks again, Patrick, for choosing us and reaching out to us to give our synopsis of fishing in Eastern Idaho with the Henry's Fork and the Teton and the South Fork of the Snake. So, yeah, my name's Mike Dawkins. I'm with World Cast Anglers in Victor, Idaho. And we've got a fly shop here in Victor. And then we've got a robust outfitting service where we outfit clients for guided, you know, trips for the Henry's Fork, Teton, South Fork of the Snake, Snake and Jackson, Grand Teton National Park, Yellowstone. So we've got it all to sort of take you to wherever you want to go fishing and see whatever you want to see. And I think that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what I'm going to talk about is just the diversity in our fishing and what we have. You know, it starts with the Henry's Fork, but man, Patrick, you know, it's like you can go from one drainage to another and no technique or flies are applicable. Like there's a couple flies that, you know, anywhere you go, you'll have success, but we've got some pretty specialized places where you can see something different and new every day, you know, even within the day. Right.
Oh yeah. No, it's the best. I'm lucky enough for those of you who don't know, I'm lucky enough to live 45 minutes over the pass from where Mike is. So that's kind of my backyard too, and that's what kind of brought me here was fishing those 3 rivers he's talking about. Onto the COVID thing, Mike, it's pretty cool that all us fishing guides were a step ahead with the whole buff thing as masks. Who would have thought, man? Right? Everyone thought we were nerds wearing those scars around our necks. I know. Now we're the coolest guys. I have a whole drawer full. I mean, it's the best.
Yeah, right. I could sell them on eBay for like hundreds of dollars, but now it's like we've been pros at social distancing and masks like before anyone.
Ahead of the game.
Get away.
Ahead of the game.
I want my own space. I want to be fishing, but I don't want to get cooked by the sun, so I'm gonna wear this face shield too.
Oh, I remember when I first started guiding and wearing a buff, it was just like, what is that dude wear? Why are you wearing a scarf? And now, well, protecting our community here. So, well, Mike, dude, let's start out. You know, Mike's going to talk about some flies for you out there. And when he talks about some Umpqua flies, you guys feel free to look them up on www.umpqua.com. Mike's going to talk about some of the flies that we have on our website, but also, of course, what he sells on our store. We don't sell direct on our website, but you can go to our dealers like Mike, and he's going to have them. So when we start with the fly thing, Mike, why don't you kind of hop into what are your top flies for that area? Like if there's a fly that you can use on the Henry's Fork, the Teton, and the South Fork, and you're allowed 3, let's say, and you got to use just those 3 patterns for those rivers. What are you looking at right now?
Yeah, I'd probably
Putting you on the
go
spot.
with. Yeah, wow, I had a list. I was prepared for this. Come on, man, give me a break. So our area, we're blessed with a huge, robust stonefly population. Wherever you go, like Box Canyon, Riverside, Hatchery Ford, Lower Henry's Fork, Teton Canyon, even some of the lower stuff in the valley, and then all of the South Fork, Henry's Fork, Golden Stone. Probably can't go anywhere without that one in your box. The next one I would say would have to be something from the Perdigon or Quildagon series, that you could pair with that Henry's Fork Golden Stone. We fish a lot of dry dropper stuff. We've got a lot of dry fly fishing. We've got a lot of cutthroats, so we don't necessarily have to get super techie with our fishing and our nymphs and depth. You can be very effective with it, and you can catch a lot of fish if you get in to some of those technical nymphing techniques that are really popular, probably in Colorado and some of the really true tailwater areas. But man, that Perdigon, it casts easy, it drops, it sinks fast, and it stays in the zone. So a lot of the times we're varying depths from that Henry's Fork Golden Stone, whether it's like, 12 to 16 inches, sometimes to, a couple feet of trying to get that into the strike zone. And so, yeah, Henry's Fork Golden Stone, Perdigon, and then I'd have to throw in probably like a, Jack Dennis sort of Parawolf Adams general attractor that would fit a lot of those drakes. It would fit a lot of the PMDs, a lot of our mayfly species, stuff like that. But there's a bunch, man. Just 3. That's tough.
Oh, too many, dude. Too many. 8,000 SKUs. It's hard to get you to only narrow down 3, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. How's the we have some
that Henry's Fork Golden Stone, man. It's a killer dry fly, foam fly for goldens, squallas, salmon flies, and those fall Classinia mutant stones that we get end of August, September. You can skate them and move them. You can dead drift them. It's applicable in all environments.
Mike, we have our first question here. What's the biggest hatch on the Teton River? That's one someone wants to know. What's the biggest hatch you like fishing?
My favorite is the PMD fishing in the summertime, especially in the Teton up here in the valley, because I love small technical dry fly fishing and, sort of head hunting, stalking, long leaders, light tippets, sort of that ranch, Henry's Fork ranch style fishing. But we have a lot of it, don't tell everyone, up here in the Teton Valley on the upper Teton, where we fish a lot of like CDC comparadons. We fish a lot of like CD spinners. A lot of that techie PMD stuff is my favorite stuff to fish on the Teton. But we also get a really good Hecuba drake hatch in the fall, where that CDC parachute green drake that Umpqua ties, like in the size 12, we always have those left over, or we always add in those after our green drake fishing on our orders, because that's like the Hecuba patterns for the Teton. And that one, Patrick, as you know, those first like fall days that you get, and those fish start gorging, getting ready for wintertime, and they're eating big mayflies. Yeah, so that's a toss-up. PMDs or the Hecuba hatch on the upper Teton are my favorites.
Awesome. What about the Henry's Fork? Everyone knows Henry's Fork. Salmon fly hatch is the thing that kicks off the season. Everyone goes crazy for it. We're kind of past that now. talk a little bit, if you can, about the salmon fly hatch. I know it's over. It's pretty much over, right, Mike? Am I on it?
Yeah. Like if I was going to give a synopsis on a Henry's Fork fishing report, right now it's sort of, I break the Henry's Fork into three sections. You've got the Box Canyon, which is the discharge from Island Park Reservoir. You got the ranch, which is like the most classic Henry's Fork water that everyone knows about, the holy grail, mecca of fly fishing with dry flies. And then you've got like the lower river, which is a pretty new fishery for the Henry's Fork. It's not that new for us who live here, but if you looked at it on the spectrum of fly fishing in general in our area, it's probably like the newest place. So you've got salmon flies that are finishing up in the Box Canyon right now. Great dry dropper fishing, great nymphing. Those Henry's Fork golden stones paired with the perdigons with different weights and different lengths are getting fish really good. That CDC, parachute green drake, or that parawolf green drake paired with, a technical jig is a very good combo. Streamer fishing with like the gangas, the swim coach. What other really good ones are up there? I like the classic, like motor oils and lead eye buggers, like old school stuff. And get good there, so those are good. You move down into the ranch and you get out of this technical tailwater environment and you get in this placid, open, spring creek where you're looking at green drakes, caddis, yellow sallies, PMDs, and the beginning of some of the gray drakes. So once again, that CDC parachute green drake's another one. I love the Lawson's cripple, the CDC comparadons, any of those little tricked out, the Mercer's high vis, PMD, and rusty spinner. Those things crush it, as well as like the parachute caddis, the E2 caddis, any of those little techie caddis. Those things are great. And then you move back like down to the lower river and it gets this sort of technical tailwater environment again, where you can start fishing some of those like tungsten jig rubber legs. You get back into the quiltigons, the light bright perdigons, stuff like that. But you also get some really good technical dry fly fishing with the PMDs, caddis, the brown and gray drakes down there that should be starting in the next couple weeks. That you pair that with these days that are like 9:30 at night, and you get home at like 11 o'clock.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Well, I've always thought that was the most underrated part of the South Fork, right? It's like, everyone looks forward to the salmon fly hatch, and it is amazing, and it's amazing to fish there during the salmon fly hatch. But afterwards, they get some pretty dope hatches, and it's fun fishing, man. I mean, Henry's Fork doesn't shut off when the salmon flies are over. In other words,
exactly. And that, we see that on the Henry's Fork. It's like, it's the first hatch where we see the salmon flies on the Henry's Fork, where people, they're done for the sprint, like winter's over. It usually starts happening mid to end of May. Everybody's fiending to go fishing and the place just gets like gorged with people. But then when the green drakes roll around like last week, and then getting into the brown and gray drakes in our PMD fishing, it's still hot, and people have sort of, fulfilled their interest with like that first piece of fishing, and they're like, oh man, I gotta go cut my grass, I gotta stain my house, I gotta do all this stuff that I blew off in salmon fly fishing. So fish now, all this yard work to do, where I usually try to do it like, I'll get a couple good salmon fly days, but I went to green drake days and the PMD days too.
Oh yeah. You answered someone asked about streamers. They just wanted to know. We didn't really talk about streamers when we talked about some of your favorite flies, but like on the Teton, we talked about the Henry's Fork, and you talked about what streamers worked on the Henry's Fork. But on the Teton, do you have a favorite streamer, or a way that, not even specifically the fly, but a way you like fishing them when you like fishing a streamer on the Teton?
Yeah, the Teton, it's a pretty small river. It's intimate. It doesn't move very fast. So I don't concentrate on fishing a lot of like big patterns, like the double gangas or like the swim coach or like some of those other ones. We sort of keep it like slim and mean, like slim and, lean and easy to cast that's not going to have a large splash or impact when it lands. We're not really fishing a lot of sink tips. It's a lot of like 10, 12 foot, mono nylon leaders. And we're fishing a lot of like motor oils, lead eye buggers, bighorn buggers, JJ specials, Clouser minnows,
the old school stuff, baby. The old school stuff.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like how many people you worked in a fly shop too? It's like, oh yeah, you get this what everybody grabs, and if I'm batting cleanup or I'm getting everybody's sloppy seconds, I just throw something totally different. Nobody fishes like the old school stuff anymore, right?
Oh no, everyone wants the big articulated and yeah. They want the big articulated and that's kind of where we go into the South Fork too, and talking about how we went from the Henry's Fork, which in my opinion is a medium-sized river, and this is all compared to the South Fork on scale, right? South Fork's huge, and I think some people, the South Fork of the Snake, I think people sometimes forget how big a water it is. I can't tell you how many people drive by all the time and are like, holy shit, that's a big river, Yeah. And so it's funny, and that when we go into smaller flies, smaller, better presentations in the Teton, and then we go into the South Fork, and that's right. I mean, that's where you would go into the bigger flies, fishing bigger stuff. You're not as worried about the splash.
Exactly. You've got, so let's put it on, like a metric or a scale of CFS, right? That's something that we all know about and are all pretty familiar, with the uniform measurement of like a basketball or a volleyball of 1 cubic feet of water moving down a river at 1 second. So, the South Fork right now is 13,000 CFS. The Teton is around 900 CFS. And then the lower Henry's Fork is around 1,700, right? So they're all like very small trickles on the scale to the South Fork. But as I was touching on earlier, it's like you can't, that's the beauty of our area, or maybe that's the thing that makes it so challenging too, where it's like you can't go and you'll get your teeth kicked in on the Teton if you're trying to fish it like the South Fork, but if you go to the South, the Teton, and you get on the South Fork, you may not be able to read that water as well because it is so much more dynamic and moving. Yeah. Right. And then you've got the Henry's Fork that's sort of like a mix in between them. So I think, when I moved out here in 2004, 2005, it was like, that was your grad school of like trout fishing, man. It's like, you got to see it all, big water, big fish, intimidating factors, suck holes, strainers, water moving with a lot of velocity, but harbors a huge fish population to something that's very slow and placid and, and easy to row, but very technical to fish. And then you get on the Henry's Fork where it's like the fish are educated, but you've got, this technical tailwater environment in the lower river. Yeah, man, it's great. Like we're still figuring stuff out. Every day is a new journey. Right? Like that's the beauty.
Each river's kicked my butt, man. I'll say that.
Yeah, right.
We have a question here. We have a question here from one dude. He or woman, excuse me. But they are talking about a float trip on the Box Canyon. They want to know about wading and how you would wade fish it in the box.
Yep. So the Box Canyon, I would say, there's two good wading accesses. There's a state U.S. Forest Service Caribou Targhee campground called Box Canyon. It can offer some good wade fishing spots. And then there's really good wade fishing up by the dam and the Buffalo Fork River, which is sort of like a big spring creek. It spills in on the river left-hand side up there where there's a fish ladder and some access all around there. Those are what you sort of got. And wade fishing up there is technical. It's big, it's bouldery. Definitely take a staff. Definitely, I'd probably wear studs, and I would take a staff, and I would just be ultra aware of my surroundings and what's going on, because it's fast moving, it's very pushy. It's a canyon, right? So it's confined into one space where water is constricted into one spot. So floating it isn't super technical, but since it's so fast, you can blow through it really quickly, which is good if you're just looking for a couple hours fishing. But if you really want to milk it out, that's where you see that classic sort of Henry's Fork shuffling, walking the boat sort of started, where you could get a lot of drifts in one single spot by holding the boat in one place without using yourself, the guide, as the anchor, right? So that's where those tungsten jig, rubber legs, the quildigons, the perdigons, you can light them up in there with that stuff.
It's a little less technical water. It's a little faster.
It's all that like basaltic lava, so you'll lose a lot of them, which fly shops love, and fly manufacturers like you guys love. I love pocket. But the new like Phantom X fluorocarbon, like Fox Canyon style, that stuff will be that's a perfect application for that material that you guys have.
Yeah, super high abrasion material.
I can't see the questions very well on my screen, so I'm just going to leave it up to you to sort of facilitate it too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm here for you. That's what I'm here for, dude. Just kind of the MC on this whole thing. Have you had a lot of cancellations, and do you have a lot of days left open? How are you guys still have open dates?
Yeah, we still have open days. This whole thing has been, challenging, just like any other industry, especially any other industry in the tourism realm, right? We do so much work in our off-season booking trips, and then to see all those trips get canceled is heartbreaking. But we're back to sort of where we were. It's just taken a lot of extra work, because we've had to do all that work again, right? You guys know, everybody knows. It's a challenge that everybody's going through. So we had a lot of cancellations. We still have open days. So we've got some great fishing to be had and some great guides that are out on the water. We have our camps on the South Fork of the Snake, which we can touch on later, that are operating. We've got, scarily, it sort of feels normal, even though it's like this is the first time in my own fly shop without a mask on. So exactly. Well,
because no one else wear masks. No one else in there. You're good. Another question just came in. So a guy wants to know, mid-August, where's your best bet for terrestrial fishing, and are there any areas susceptible to higher temps?
Okay, so mid-August, I'd start looking at mid-August for our terrestrial fishing, the Teton, hoppers, beetles, ants, flying ants, stuff like that. The M's hopper is a killer hopper around here with that nice thin, thorax and, body. And we like it in yellow, pink, tan, all of them. That one's killer. So the Teton gets really good terrestrial fishing. The South Fork, believe it or not, doesn't get great terrestrial fishing. I think because it's just such a big river that your terrestrial pockets are limited in certain spots, where the Teton is really, intimate and smaller, where I think that food source is more readily available. The Henry's Fork, by that time, that lower river is pretty warm. It's pretty mossy, and we sort of stay away from it just for a safety precaution for the fishery and the fish, right? Not to overstress them or put undue stress on them. You can have some really good days, but on the lower Henry's Fork fishing hoppers, and you probably would be pretty surprised, but I'd get your work done by like 10 a.m., right? When water temperatures are at the coolest, before the light gets really high. The other thing we haven't touched on is we've got some great tributaries and freestones and creeks that fish
Yeah,
really
hit on those, man. Yeah.
Right. So we've got like Pine Creek. Usually by August, it's pretty low, but you've got the tributaries to Palisades Reservoir, so Bear Creek, Big Elk Creek. You've got Bitch Creek, Badger Creek. I mean, any of these tributaries in this basin, the Fall River, all of those, that's when some of those tributaries really shine, is in that summer time frame where they're still getting lots of cool water coming out of the mountains and high elevations. I mean, Trail Creek right behind the fly shop, it can fish really well in August when those fish are looking for really, really cold water and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where I would look. The Teton is sort of like Hopper City. There's a lot of like tall grass, willows, stuff like that you'd be surprised with some of the fish that come out of that place with hoppers.
We have two good questions. Well, our good friend Pete McElwain chimed in. He wants to know, Big P, what is your favorite fast food restaurant since you're on the road a lot? So that's Pete's. Pete, I don't like Wendy's, Pete. I'm a big Qdoba fan these days on the road. But since this isn't a Q&A for me, we're going to go to the burrito. Oh, I go right for the burrito, dude. I can't do Wendy's is the one I can't do. Occasionally I'll indulge at McDonald's. I try to dodge it all, But yeah, sometimes the big guys, I don't run on water, Mike, I gotta get those. I gotta get that going sometimes. So, thanks, Pete. I'm glad you're worried about my diet on the road. But back to Mike, who is our guest. Mike, there is a question. Do you Euro nymph much?
Yeah. I mean, I working in the fly shop and in the fly fishing industry, it's no new tale that it's like we don't get to fish a lot in the summer. I wish we did, but we're busy helping clients. We're busy getting customers out on the water. We're helping, put out fires wherever they are. It's our Christmas time. So most of my fishing that I get to do is, in the winter, early spring, in early summer time frame where we fish the Lower Henry's Fork a lot. If you were going to sort of look at the consistency in our fisheries, the Lower Henry's Fork really can offer the best fishing in the winter and the spring months. And so we do a lot of Euro nymphing or technical nymphing on the Lower Henry's Fork because it's got that nice uniform tailwater sort of style bottom with little dips and depressions and stuff like that, with that sort of consistent water speed with those little buckets and troughs and stuff like that. So, it's been a new skill that a lot of us have been trying out here, and we've all seen the effectiveness of it, right? And the cool thing is, like, you guys at Umpqua have those pre-tied leaders where you can loop them on a 9'5" weight, try it out for a couple hours, tippet rings attached, all that kind of stuff, fish it up. And if you want to change it off and fish some dry flies or dry dropper stuff, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, I would say the cool thing about Euro nymphing, what I've gotten out of it is, we fish in our neck of the woods. We fish 90% out of a boat, right? Like, that's the reality. We all say over here we say we wade fish, but a lot of us we fish out of a boat. And what's cool about the Euro nymphing thing is I haven't gotten into it too much, but when I do bring it in the boat, it's nice to be able to, stop at a riffle, hop out, play around with it. Then you get back in the boat, and then you're back to throwing, chubbies against the bank with a dropper and kind of fishing regular. So we get this whole thing of, well, you guys fish on a boat, you never would have time for Euro nymphing. Like, it's actually a cool thing to play around with in certain areas. I mean, I personally would rather fish the chubby with a dropper.
Yeah, I would rather fish dry flies, but I'm also a guy that I like all arrows in my quiver, right? Like, however I can get them, I'm going to get them and want to get them, because it touches back on just that piece that we started with, where, fly fishing is that sport that you never stop learning, right? And this Euro nymphing thing and, surge has been one of those great pieces of, like, it whisks you back to that place where you were when you first started fly fishing, and like all information and all techniques and everything was so new. Your brain was like a sponge, right? And all you wanted to do was try it, and you'd be successful, and you would fail, and then you would fail miserably, and then you would be successful again, and it goes back to that journey of building your confidence as an angler. Which is a fun progression.
It's been cool learning it, honestly. I've been surrounded. Russ, I know, is watching, our marketing director, and he's on Team USA, and he's big on it. And Josh Graffam, our sales manager, is big. They're both Team USA members, and I mean, they taught me a lot about it, and it's always something I kind of brushed off, and they were like, talked to Josh, traveling with Josh about it. I've learned a lot. It's a cool way to find fish, figure out where fish are. It's interesting. So we have a question here. What is the best post-fishing watering hole? That's a nice one.
Man, that's easy. It's Spicy Marg at the Knotty Pine on the outdoor patio.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
No ifs, ands, buts.
Yeah. We'll end the conversation on that one. That one's perfect. So someone wants to know, what's the daily fly progression and what that means with water, like combined to the water temperature. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but so daily fly progression, middle of summer, you're going out on the let's say South Fork, Henry's Fork, anywhere, but how are you going to start to how you're going to finish?
Sure. So let's we'll say it's like a normal July day on the South Fork of the Snake, right? And you're getting your boat ready, you're rigging your rods. I'd probably rig one rod with a full, nymphing indicator nymphing rig setup with like a rubber legs, the tungsten jig rubber legs, 2-bit hooker in brown, red, maybe even, an olive, something like that. Probably wingspan 5-6 feet to start, and then I would vary it from there. I'd rig a dry dropper rod with like a Henry's Fork Golden Stone, or something like that, rigged with a Perdigon or a Quildagon or a light bright Perdigon, probably starting at 2 feet. And then I'd rig another rod with like a CDC Biot Comparadon, foam Pink Cahill, that Mercer's foam Pink Cahill, or a CDC Emerger, or something like that, right? So I'd probably start out the day nymphing with that 2-bit hooker, or something along a Frenchie or something like that, that classic sort of pheasant tail pattern that's imitating the PMDs as they're sort of moving around in the water. You may see some spinner fishing right when you get to the water, but South Fork, we don't really get much of that. So my gravitation would be the nymphs in the morning until you start seeing the adults, where the parachutes, the CDC Emergers, the CDC Comparadons, the Lawson's Cripple, all of those things start coming into play when you get those fish up in those riffles eating small dry flies. And a lot of times when you first start, they're on the Cripples, they're on the Emergers, and they're on, sort of the knockdowns and stuff like that, and be gravitating that into the parachutes. And then maybe towards the end of the day, be fishing some of those rusty spinners, like that Mercer's Profile, High Vis Profile Rusty Spinner. I love that thing. And then while I was moving spot to spot, I'd be fishing that Henry's Fork Golden Stone dry dropper style on the bank. I'd fish some inside bends. I'd be fishing, any of that, the grass banks, seam lines. Cutthroats are weird. This, Patrick, where it's like they like heavy seams and big recircs and that heavy water where it's like, you don't really see rainbows and browns and that kind of stuff. So I'd be using that dry dropper prospecting, looking around at that time for those fish in those heavy water currents, banks, inside bends, stuff like that. And then maybe towards the end of the day, if you had a good one, I'd probably cut that nymph rig off and, tie on a Ganga or the swim coach and look to sort of finish it out that way. But yeah,
just get that meat out there, man.
Yeah, right. Those colder water temps, with the nymphs, and I would just be working those nymphs like through the water column from start to finish, from the bottom to the top.
Gotcha. Kind of taking a little bit of a left turn here, but someone would like to have us kind of discuss some of the conservation with water supply, some of the dam issues in the region. You're the expert. I mean, where are you on some of the conservation? How are we doing? How's our water supply? How's the dam been running? Dams up. Excuse me.
I would say that we're in a pretty good spot here. Because we have people like the Henry's Fork Foundation, we have people like Friends of the Teton River, and we have friends like and groups like the South Fork Initiative that are all the watchdogs for us, right? And they have a vested interest, just like an outfitter or a guide or a public river user or anything along those lines, for the general like watershed community. So, I would say we're in a really good spot because of those groups, because they've acted as this mediator between us, the outfitters, anglers, general river users, compared to the agricultural component Patrick, a large component of all of our water in Eastern Idaho is used for agricultural purposes. So, we've got great communication with those groups. They've got great communication with consumptive water users, and bring the whole piece, all the pieces of the puzzle together for everyone to, use the water accordingly. Are outfitters ever going to be held in the same light as an agricultural, potato farmer or somebody like that? Absolutely not. But these groups have done an incredible job in brokering the needs and wants from both sides.
It's awesome. That's good. No, and it's great that we have things like the Henry's Fork Foundation, Friends of the Teton. I mean, that's super important. It's people basically looking out for anglers' best interests, our habitat's best interests. It's always, those groups are invaluable in my opinion. We have another question here. Do you have a two-handed game on the Henry's Fork? So that could either go like, what's your game when you do when you spay cast on the Henry's Fork, or they're like, Mike, do you have a fucking game doing this, dude? But what is it? So,
do one-handed rods, right? No, we do. The lower Henry's Fork, like Warm River to Ashton, Ora, Vernon, Chester, all that stuff downstream of Ashton is prime trout spay game, man. It's all good down there. We don't do a lot of it. It's once again, I'll put it in the same bucket as the Euro nymphing for us. It's a really cool way to get them and to catch some fish, in that winter, springtime, fall time, when you're just looking to do something different and catch fish in a different way. That doesn't mean it's not effective like in spring and summer, but it's just not like our preferred method. But whoever asked that question, come to the Henry's Fork or come in the shop, in the springtime or summertime or fall time, and I'll point you in the direction of some really good runs. I love two-handed rods. It's always been a thing of mine, so I've always sort of kept with it. And now that we've got, rod manufacturers like OPST and Winston and some of these other guys that are making like sick little trout spay rods, it's super fun, with some sink tips.
Do you think that that swim coach is going to be a pretty good trout spay pattern, don't you? The baby swim coach.
Heck yeah, baby, or like I like the little baby Ganga too.
Little baby Ganga, yeah. Those things are they're like. It's funny how it's same thing with Euro nymphing. I feel like different ways of angling these rivers have kind of been popping up, and trout spay is definitely one of them. And it's funny, when I was traveling around my territory, I would always get like, do you have any specific trout spay rods or flies? What trout spay flies do you use? It's like, dude, we got them right here, man. These are perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick question.
I mean, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying like it's just like the Euro nymphing thing. It's like you don't have to have the specialized gear to go do it. You can do a two-handed cast with a one-handed rod, right? And swing streamers instead of doing it the other way. So
yeah, there aren't specific flies for either method of fishing, and that's why there are so many flies out there.
Fish.
Yeah. Yeah, just fish and just you got flies that'll work. Or World Cast Anglers will have them, supplied by Umpqua. So I have a question here. It says tips for the late evening floats on the lower Henry's Fork and Chester backwater this time of year. How has evening fishing been doing?
The evening fishing has been fantastic. If there's a time to go fish it, it's now. Chester backwater, Fun Farm backwater, any of that kind of stuff. Those drakes on a entomology level, they're burrowers, right? So they like silty, sort of slower moving water than your crawlers and those other types of mayfly nymphs. So those areas are prime for gray drakes, brown drakes, the PMD spinner falls, stuff like that. I would say it's pretty similar to the ranch, where we always say in the fly shop, be ready for like the greatest day of your angling life or the most frustrating experience you're ever going to see. So it's like, it can go either ways.
Oh yeah.
But the great thing about fishing some of the like Chester backwater, Fun Farm, and some of those other places is like, you can just put in at the takeout, row upstream, fish, and take out at the same spot. You don't have to commit to like this big section of river and dissecting it and going through all these different places and all this other kind of stuff. If that's your gig and that's what you want to do, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and would you say that the evening fishing right now is a little bit, or as the summer progresses, as the heat of the, it's hotter during the day, evening floats can kind of be the ticket, what you say?
100%. Like dawn patrol or evening, you're going to see more productivity in your fishing during those time frames. Unless it was a day like today where it was rainy and cold, and you're like, all I want to do is lock the fly shop and go out there and throw streamers on the Henry's Fork or green cranes or something like that. But we can't. Yeah. But other than that,
we can't.
We're getting ready to get into our summer season. We're gonna see some really hot days and some really sunny days where, just like you were saying, Patrick, those low light periods, you're going to see a lot more productivity in your dry fly fishing. Big time.
I got a specific cutty question for you, Mike. It says, where do cutties spawn? Do they spawn in dirty water? Is it a mystery?
Let me get my
We're solving
biologist.
mysteries.
Yeah, let me get my biologist hat out here. I know that cutthroats are tributary spawners, and rainbows are more main stem spawners. So, if you look at some of the tributaries on the South Fork of the Snake, and you look at the tributaries on the Teton, which are both Yellowstone cutthroat trout native and natal habitat, all of the tributaries are protected for the month of June while those fish are spawning. So the water may be clear, it may be dirty. That depends on the snowpack, and that depends on the year and the weather that we get. But the fishing element of it is, be on those tribs right when they open, because there's probably a lot of cutthroats left over in there post-spawn, or fish start dropping out or something like that. But those are the times to sort of hit those spots. It's my belief that cutthroats are tributary spawners.
Yes, that's always been mine too. I think they always go up in the tributaries, and it happens to always be dirty water. And due to all my biology classes I've taken, that's kind of what I figured out.
And they spawn
what?
they spawn really late too, right? Like I've seen cutthroats spawn in April, and then I've caught cutthroats in spawning full regalia in the west thumb of Yellowstone Lake in like the first week of July.
Yeah. No, it's weird. It's weird. I've been in places where I've seen them spawning as late as July and as early as April too. It's like it is a mystery. Whoever asked that question, basically, what we're trying to solve that. Next year when we do this again, we'll solve that mystery. Yeah, exactly.
Demystified it.
We touched it a little bit, and I think it's kind of funny. We got into all of our boat talking here, but we haven't talked about wading the ranch at all, man. I mean, talk about wading the ranch on the Henry's Fork, and I mean, I know you love it. I remember one time you and I were with our friend Foz, and we had a little too much to drink that night, and you and I got in an argument about I was just trashing how much better Wyoming fishing is than Idaho. And you just shut me up by looking at me and said, go catch a 20-inch rainbow on the ranch and then come talk to me. And you like took a sip of your beer.
Right.
And I like spaced out, but it was, you got me good on that one. So I just have an exquisite memory, man. But
I don't know. It's sort of like, I don't like, labeling unless I'm intoxicated with friends like you or Foz or somebody like that. But open dialogues that aren't recorded or on social media or something like that. But I don't like putting labels on certain areas or certain types of fishing, because I think all fishing is great, right? Like being able to get outside, enjoy being outdoors and fishing, whether you're nymphing or streamer fishing or fishing small dry flies on the ranch, or you're carp fishing on Blackfoot Reservoir, man. It's all good. Like it's all about.
Well, you're being very political right now, which I appreciate. You're being very political, but as a disclaimer, we were just bantering back and forth, and we were both passionate about our states. But as I said earlier, it stuck with me, man. I mean, you just looked at me straight in the eyes, and you gave me the catch a rainbow trout on the ranch, man.
I think it's the hardest, most rewarding fishing and most frustrating fishing I've ever done in my life. Besides throwing permit fishing or something like that, and it takes a high skill set. But it also takes a lot of patience. It takes the ability, to fail a lot and to learn from your failures and to capitalize on your opportunities of how you get them. Because you have to be connected to that single fish, right? Like your streamer fishing or your dry dropper fishing, you're not, maybe you're connected to the occasional rise on the bank, or you see something, but this is like an intimate, like I'm on foot with you, and like I'm gonna give it my best, and the fish is gonna give it his best or her best, their best, and we're gonna walk away from it at the end of the day, and somebody's gonna win and somebody's gonna lose. With streamer fishing, it's just sort of like you're covering water, right? You're just turning and burning them. But with that,
this is a hunt on the ranch. You're hunting.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a good way. That's a good way to put it.
I love that piece of it of like, you get to that point, like, and Patrick, you've gone there too, where it's like you start fly fishing and you're like, man, all I want to do is catch them, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, all I want to do is catch a big one. And then you get to a point where it's like you've caught a bunch, you've caught big ones, and then you get to a point where it's like, I want to get them in a certain way, right? Like I'm addicted to like seeing a foam eat, or like I want to get them hunting on foot, or I want to get them stripping a streamer, right? It's like we all build these little idiosyncrasies of like what we love and like how to catch fish, right?
Oh yeah. No, the ranch is a special place, man. But it sure will kick your ass if you want it to.
Totally.
Totally. So we have another question here. What type of rowing skills are needed for your area rivers? What would you say? The South Fork, right? You need to be a little bit better of a rower. It's just big water. It's dangerous water. And then, just what's your thoughts on that? I know you guys do a great rowing class, the World Cast Rowing School, which is super popular in the area. I've been trying to get my wife to do it for years.
Yeah, so we do women's specific rowing classes. We do a women's rowing 101 class, and then we do a 201 class. And then we also have some guide schools, 2 in the spring, 1 in the fall, that has a heavy rowing progression component, because as you were saying, like 90% of the fishing that we do out here is out of a drift boat. So, if you're fishing places like the Teton or the Henry's Fork, I would say, having beginner rowing skills is good. Having more advanced rowing skills is better. If you're journeying out on the South Fork, I always tell people, it's a big river and it's not dropping at a really steep gradient. So there's not a lot of, the places where you get in trouble was with volume. And with that much volume, things happen quickly and you get in trouble quickly. So it's more about having your head on a swivel and being cognizant and aware of what's going on than being like an expert rower, because there's no like drops or boulder gardens or rapids or things like that. It's just a slug of volume pushing you very fast and very hard.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it, with the volume. When it comes to the World Cast anglers, what you guys provide via guided trips, when we've talked about these 3 rivers, how is it the client's choice? Is it your choice based on what's fishing best? Like, how do you guys, if I call you guys, I'm from California and I want to go fly fishing, and I say, I'm leaving the river up to you. Do you leave that up to how does World Cast run, in other words, with your guided trips?
Sure. So that's like, you've worked in a fly shop and booked trips. So, like that matching client expectations with guide dynamics, with the seasonality of it, it's like the biggest crux of our business, right? So I think a portion of it, we break it into like 3 parts. Some people call and say, hey, I fished this last year, or I want to go check this out, and specifically name or request like a piece of water. We see that like more on the Henry's Fork, Teton, in areas like that. The other piece would be, I've never fished your area. What trips do you offer? And the skill level of the angler, right? And I can't in good conscience and ethically take somebody's money as an outfitter and then them say that they're a beginner and then send them to the range, right? Like, I'm not doing anybody in the fly fishing industry any type of favors with doing that. So that's matching those client expectations, where it's like, hey, we're beginners. We want, the most opportunities at fish. We want to catch a bunch of fish and lose a bunch of fish and learn a lot. That's probably like the South Fork of the Snake would be a great one. If it's a father-son that says, hey, we fish a lot, we want to see a little bit of everything, South Fork, Teton, Henry's Fork, right? It's like you can have prime small dry fly fishing up on the Henry's Fork. You can fish the Teton Canyon or something down here in the valley and have a different experience. And then you can go get on the big water, the South Fork of the Snake, do our overnight trip, which is 2 days of fishing and a night at our South Fork Hilton. And you can see like the best of the West right there, man.
Oh yeah. So, that's an experience.
We got to take it case by case basis, which is a lot of work, but like it's matching our client and customers' expectations to what we have available at the time.
We have 5 minutes left here. I want we want to answer. I know, dude. Time flies when you're talking buds and stuff, dude. we have a question saying, what's your favorite time of year to fish the South Fork? And then when you kind of get through that, just, let the people know how we can, we have 3 minutes now. Sam just laughed at me. But maybe let people know how they can get in touch with WorldCast, give your website, all that stuff, and just kind of, have at it. What's your favorite time of year to fish South Fork? And then talk a little bit about WorldCast to close us out.
Man, I got to say my favorite time of year on the South Fork is, July with the PMD fishing, and we talked about this earlier. The salmon fly fishing gets so crazy and hectic. I sort of just let that be and let it be hectic and crazy. But I love fishing like the golden stones, and I love like the PMD fishing, the mayfly fishing on the riffles, wet wading, shorts and flip-flops. Like the waders and all that stuff are gone. It's like full-on summertime, like chips and salsa, cold beer in the boat, small dry fly fishing. That's my heaven, right?
Oh yeah. July's the
July on the South Fork. With the PMDs, we can get some really good PMD fishing all the way through August too. But that's my favorite time. But if you're interested in booking a trip with us, or you're in the area, our fly shop is in Victor. Our website's worldcastanglers.com. We have some killer overnight trips where we've got some outpost camps down in the South Fork Canyon, which is a 28-mile float that's separated into 2 days with a stay at our camp on the river. So you get to see this entire piece of water that's inaccessible by road, where we've got it pretty much like glamping style, steaks on the grill, cocktails, beer and wine, big campfire, stuff like that. Definitely, if you're looking for a unique fishing experience, give us a call or shoot us an email from worldcastanglers.com.
It's awesome, man. Well, we have 1 minute left, dude. It's been awesome talking fishing, hanging out, and appreciate it, dude. I mean, it's great hearing your inside scoop on everything in your area, and it seems like we had a lot of people interested and wanted to ask questions. So that was awesome, Mike. Thanks so much to you and WorldCast, and love working with you guys, and I know Umpqua does too. So Umpqua loves working with you, man. Thank you so much.
Well, you're an important partner to us and our fly shop success. So thanks for everything you do for us and everyone at Umpqua that does great stuff for our fly shop and other fly shops. And thanks again for having us, man.
Of course, dude. Of course. I think our minute's up.